We got Dave in Maryland wants to talk about the physics of purgatory. That's not a question I ever thought would be asked to me.
Wait, really?
I don't think a lot about purgatory, so maybe it's just a me thing.
That's okay. I don't think a lot about physics.
Yeah.
I do, actually.
I don't pretend that I do. I know physics, yeah.
I don't know any of that either. So I just want to thank you real quick for what you guys do. Back like 10 years ago, Matt Dillahunty kind of indirectly saved my life. And what you guys do for me now today is sort of clear up a lot of confusion about, metaphysics, reality, whatever. So just thank you for that.
Thank you.
So, sure. So I'm an atheist. I'm in a couple of, atheism versus theism groups. And I was having a discussion yesterday with somebody who's a theist and a lawyer. And he posted like a very simplistic meme about purgatory. Oh, this is purgatory, and you can stop here in purgatory before you get to heaven. Your soul gets clean, whatever. And he mentioned something about, you can also spend a long time there. And my first question I came up with was, well, that's weird that there's time in purgatory, or that just made me curious. And I was like, well, how does time work in purgatory? And he said it's indeterminate. I was like, that's interesting, and there also seems like a sequence of events. You're alive, and then you go to purgatory, and then you go to heaven. So it got me thinking more about the physics of purgatory. Like, is there information in purgatory? Is there heat? Is there light? Just very basic physics questions. And of course, he's like, I don't know.
And did he say if it was within space time? It's outside of space. Like I'm not understanding that view. Like what? It's like in our universe somewhere. There's like a location for it.
Yeah, I don't remember what his answer was, but I don't think it was very enlightening. So I guess I'd kind of shortcut the whole thing and ask Jmike. I know you're very familiar with philosophy and metaphysics and whatever, but so I'm just wondering, are there any prominent theists who are also well versed in physics, or are there any physicists who are also theists that have come up with a kind of logical semantics or some kind of formula or some way of describing purgatory or hell or heaven or wherever in any sort of formal way with any.
That's a good question. I don't know of it's like the first thing that came to my mind was someone named Luke Barnes, who's I think he's a cosmologist or a physicist. He's a Christian. He runs a Bayesian type of argument for fine tuning, which I don't think works for what's called stalking horse objection reasons that Alex Malpass presents to. But anyway, he doesn't talk about purgatory or things like that. From my understanding, I haven't really read a lot on him. I think that's you're going to get a lot of that in the theology, but in the strict the Rasmussens, the Pruses, the Swinburnes, right? All the Christian kind of prominent philosophers. I don't see anything in their work about that. And the stuff that I have read on it, at least in talking about heaven, for example, is to me, every time when I've read stuff like that, it's just so clearly a just so story. It's like fan fiction to me, right? It's like talking about, some show, like Star Trek or something, and then just making up fan fiction about one of the spinoff shows or something, or a new spinoff show that you could do. I have never seen anything compelling because I want to see a deductive argument or something, even though I'm skeptical of those in metaphysics, but I want to see the chain of reasoning. And really it's just the audience seems to the people that are going to be talking about that, they're selling it to somebody who already buys the product, right? So they don't have to do a lot of work. Whereas someone like me and you don't buy that product. It just sounds, just to me at least, it sounds like a bunch of fan fiction. So I would just say no, there isn't any from my understanding, there isn't any good philosophy there. And
That's really
I
disappointing.
don't think that it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be forthcoming.
Okay. I mean, there must be theists out there who have thought about this before and find it to be like a glaring, massive gap.
Yeah, I think the pattern that I have seen, the pattern I've seen is anybody that starts asking the questions you are quickly becomes an ex-theist. That's why you don't see them very much, I'm guessing, because the mere asking of that question indicates a interest in truth that I don't think is common. And I'm not saying interest in truth is not common amongst people who are religious, but in that particular area, they tend to compartmentalize their lives and reserve that religious area for lack of questioning. When you started talking, the only scientist I could think of was Francis Collins, who was a biologist who led the Human Genome Project and mapped out the human genome. He was is and ran NIH. He was a Christian evangelical, and he said the genetic record alone proves beyond a reasonable doubt that evolution is true. So he's able to compartmentalize his life so that he still believes in Christianity, but anywhere where he's looked into it with a scientific view, where the science goes against what is written in the scripture or is commonly held beliefs, he goes with the science. So it's a God of the gaps, it's a shrinking, it's a well, you need faith for this stuff. And when you start getting into purgatory and heaven, there's no specifics anywhere. Anything that is specific about afterlife is very vague in the Bible, or you've got Revelations, which, as I said at the beginning, is sort of an acid trip. So I don't think any scientist is going to be able to give any sort of model unless it was done jokingly. If a bunch of physicists, PhD students might get together one weekend and have some beers and say, if it were going to work, let's do some models, and then do a bunch of complicated models that achieve nothing.
Right. All right. Well, thank you very much, guys.
Sure. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, thank you, Dave.